We're watching a series of rocketing failures, all American, along with headlines proclaiming that the Soviets are winning the space race. As we'll learn, this is all happening because something in history went wrong that Bog and Jeffrey need to fix. And we'll get to it eventually. This is the longest opening credit sequence I have ever seen. It goes on for a full 2 minutes. When you watch this episode, be aware that you'll have plenty of time to pee before anything actually happens. Though I have to admit that subhead is wonderful. But enough about that. It's Jeffrey's birthday and Bog has promised to take him anywhere, anytime he wants. Jeffrey has chosen Cape Kennedy, July 1969, for the launch of Apollo 11, the mission that put human beings on another heavenly object for the first time. I can't blame him. I was a total space nut and couldn't wait to see the launch, and I'll never forget it. And watching Neil Armstrong step on the moon for the first time was the best 16th birthday present any kid ever got.
Cape Kennedy, the first U.S. moonshot? Oh, you blew it.
Red light. Maybe that was the wrong date or place or something, huh?
No way. Bog, this place looks like a junkyard.
The last headline in that half-a-day opening sequence said the American space program had been abandoned. Presumably that means this place too. Well, except for Wally. He has a gas station and aerospace museum.
Well, this is Cape Kennedy, isn't it?
Canaveral. Cape Canaveral.
President Johnson never named it Cape Kennedy because President Kennedy never got the space program off the ground. It doesn't take Jeffrey long to find out why the Russians are so far ahead. At the end of World War II, Dr. Werner von Braun, the Germans' leading and off-the-charts brilliant rocket scientist, and his team from Peenemünde wound up with the Russians instead of the Americans. He was the catalyst that put America into space, but in this Red Omni reality, one of his own people betrayed them to some German general who used him as a bargaining chip to get good treatment from the Russians. A little more probing for a date and location, and they're off to try and fix that.
No! Turn around, the other way. Keep moving. Whatever you do, do not stop. You will attract their attention. Halt!
Too late, I think you have their attention. That was General Kammler, and he's determined to find von Braun. In private conversations with his aide Klaus, we'll learn that he wants the scientist because he knows his side is losing. The Americans are coming from the south, the Russians from the east. He expects the Russians to get there first, and if he can offer them the Peenemünde team, they might offer him a job. And Klaus too, of course. Ernst there, who tried to help them, is one of von Braun's men. When he hears Jeffrey speak, he assumes they're an advanced team from the Americans sent to take them all to safety. As so often happens, he won't shut up long enough for them to try and explain who they really are. He takes them to von Braun.
Are you Dr. von Braun?
You see? American.
I'm sorry, but I think your friend's made a little mistake.
Mistake? I have made no mistake. You said you were Americans.
That's not exactly what I said.
As I suspected, Ernst. You have led Herr General Kammler directly to us all.
You lied.
He couldn't possibly have lied. You didn't let him say anything. You said he was with the Americans. And Jeffrey is American. Bog talks like an American. And by the way, Willie there in the blue sweater is determined to convince them that surrendering to the Russians is their best bet.
Here, Otto. Take this radio crystal and broadcast on our special frequency. And tell the others whatever you wish.
No! Please, Dr. von Braun, you've got to listen.
Just wait. Before you bring all the scientists together, you have to...
Von Braun?
Our ride to the Russians is here. Who's got the tickets? I thought you had the tickets. There's a secret back entrance, and Bog sends everybody through it. They have one tear gas grenade to give him so he can hold them off and maybe even get away himself. Like that. They have a camp in the hills. The scientists are scattered among several such camps because it's not a good idea for them all to be in the same place in case Kammler shows up. Because you know he won't bring enough snacks for everybody and we don't want to embarrass him. After some discussion, Ernst will go try to find the Americans.
Bog, let me go with him.
No.
Please? A man and a boy. No one would suspect us.
For one thing, Jeffrey is an American. For another, he's not convinced that Ernst isn't the traitor. Keeping an eye on him might be a good idea. They come up with some more local-looking clothes for both Jeffrey and Bog, and Ernst and Jeffrey set out.
Ernst. He's my age.
Yeah, and old men too. When all else is lost, we always seem to find more to lose.
That's what happens when the state, the party, the leader, or whatever is the most important thing. The people who live in it become commodities to be bought, sold, or discarded. The select few are important, the rest of us are bargaining chips.
Halt! Schmeißen Sie Ihre Waffen her!
That looked like an American helmet to me, but is there an American head inside it? Toward the end, some Germans did try to pull shenanigans like that.
Hey, you guys sprechen Sie English? Seen any Kraut soldiers?
Jeffrey Jones, New York, New York.
I've heard it all now. Fred Schneiker, Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Where?
Sheboygan.
Sausages.
Ernst reports that they met a small patrol that can't do anything yet, but the Americans are coming as quickly as they can. It's worth watching the episode just to see Jeffrey's speech about the difference between America and Russia. They take a vote, and it's one for the Russians, everybody else plus the mice and roaches for the Americans. Now they have to find a radio to let the other camps know what to do. Kurt, Erica, and Bog will sneak into the village and take care of that.
Here is the radio, Crystal.
Thank you.
Tell them to meet us just north of the town before sundown. Then we will make our way to the south, to the Americans.
Won't Kellner be able to hear you?
No, we have our own frequency, one that cannot be overheard.
Plug that crystal into the radio, and it sets it to their private frequency, and Kammler doesn't have one of those crystals. Nice. As long as it gets plugged into the radio. Bog isn't so sure Kurt isn't the traitor. If Bog is right, Kurt could try to sabotage the idea. They're in town, they've found a radio and a place to put it.
The radio, almost ready. And I'll alert the groups in the special band.
Are you sure no one saw you come in here?
No, no one.
Dr. Schumann calling all Peenemundi groups.
Or maybe Erica is the informer, and her message over that radio is going straight to Kammler's office.
Groups at Oberjoch and Brandberg. I repeat, all groups must move today for rendezvous with American Army.
She's telling him where the groups are so he can send troops and capture them.
Our only chance is essential that you move quickly and quietly.
We've been had, Kurt.
We will move to the
She's taking the
American
Germans.
lines to join
She's the
them
traitor.
before sundown.
Once he exposes her and unplugs the radio, he asks the obvious question, why?
My brother Edward. Kamla had him arrested in Hamburg. Now he's a prisoner here at the village. To force me.
Bog is a tad more forgiving now, and what's done is done. Kammler knows the plan. So now the question is, what's the new plan?
Reach the scientists. Tell them to abandon their villages now. And give them the instructions.
How will they get through? Kamala will be waiting.
I don't know. Well, something, anything. Well, I'll have a diversion.
But diversion with what? Von Braun has some of his rockets in the truck they were using, but they don't have any warheads. Kammler's men have found all the camps deserted, and no more radio reports are coming. But there's worse news.
Hitler is dead. Berlin is finished.
In other words, they're on their own. There is no more Third Reich, no powerful German military, and officers like these are just hung out to dry. Now he really needs those scientists, because without something to bargain with, the Russians aren't going to be any more forgiving than the Americans. Von Braun has reached the radio, and Bog is telling him the situation. The scientists have to pass through the village to reach the Americans, and Kammler has reinforcements on the way. As I said, they have rockets, but no warheads. They do, however, have lots of volatile chemicals along with the rockets. Bog gets an idea.
We're going to make the Nazis think the Americans are attacking the village.
You need to watch the episode to get the full effect of this, because there's a whole subplot about von Braun losing his nerve and not wanting to be the leader anymore. It's very well done and worth watching. It'll tug your heartstrings a little because most of us have been there. Kamler has the city streets guarded in a scene that's reminiscent of the Gauntlet. Soldiers, trucks, machine gun nests, no way those scientists are getting through. Question: what's the terrain like outside the village? They might have to leave the trucks, but most of them are on foot anyway, so why can't they just go around? Answer: it makes a boring show. Just go with it. As I said, they don't have any warheads, but they have plenty of chemicals for making smoke bombs that include loud noises. From the upstairs window, Kurt starts yelling that the Americans are coming, he can see the tanks approaching, the soldiers had better get out of there. And it's working. As more and more smoke bombs descend and chaos reigns, the soldiers all abandon their posts and take off down the road. Soon there's nobody left but the famous comedy team of Kamler and Klaus, and their gig just closed down.
Bob, it's working! They're running away! Bob? Bob?
He's gone to rescue your brother, Erica. He knows Kamler is just petty and vindictive enough to murder your brother out of spite before he leaves. Edward's doing a pretty good job himself keeping Klaus off balance. Between the two of them, they cause enough trouble that Klaus finally jumps in the Jeep and says, "Let's get out of here." They do. Here come the scientists, and they have a clear path to the Americans in scientific history. The Omni is green. There's just one loose end to tie up. We do not want John Eric Hexum to sue us for breach of contract. Bog has a tendency to fall for every woman he encounters on a mission, but it's not surprising. Intense danger and action of the kind they're forever getting themselves into causes emotions to run high. All the emotions, including romance and infatuation. If you watched the MASH series, you know Hawkeye and Major Houlihan were always at each other's throats because he was so unmilitary and she hated it. Yet, there was an episode where they found themselves in the middle of some heavy shelling, and in a near panic, all those emotions exploded into, you can probably guess, especially if you saw the episode. That kind of thing happens to Bog. A lot. Back to Cape Kennedy to watch the moon launch, then a few days later to watch the first steps on the moon. As I mentioned, the first footstep on the moon was my 16th birthday present. That means I've lived with that wonderful memory for 50 years or most of my life. It's easy to forget that most of you came along too late to watch any of the moon landings and didn't get to experience that. I wish time travel really did exist so you could go back there and experience what it felt like, because there's no way I can describe it. The words just don't exist. But now Jeffrey's experienced it, so maybe he can come up with something. I hear he's a pretty easygoing guy, so don't be afraid to ask him if you see him.